webinar, Examiner's Report Unlock. My name is Tze Kang Chan, an expert tutor for PM, FM, AFM, and APM, and I've been teaching the subjects for more than 20 over years in several parts of the world. In these sessions on the webinar, I would like to cover especially the first three areas for everyone before we jump in to the Q&A session, which I already have seen an overwhelming questions that is coming in either in the attendee chat or the Q&A. But I would appreciate a lot more if you guys would like to put all your questions that you want me to address in the Q&A box, as what mentioned by Hazel. I will be trying my very best to answer as many as I could before the time's end. I would like to first take you through in a moment looking at, apart from what examiner says about areas that candidates have done well or badly, what else that we're supposed to discover from the examiner report? From the discovery in the examiner report, what is the message that is coming to us? Particularly, how are we preparing ourselves from now right up to the exam by making use of ranges of useful tools and learning resources from the ACCA website, in particular, the Study Hub. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you some live demonstrations on what I would be doing if I put myself in the shoe of a student by making use of the Study Hub in a flexible and effective manner, based upon your available learning time from now to the examination. So I hope with this kind of experience sharing, that will give you a much better idea of making a full use of the Study Hub in assisting you to achieve your success in the upcoming exam. And I will also follow through looking into some of the tips and advices, giving you guys some of the exam strategies to increase the chances of gaining the marks by better utilizing the time management skills over there. And finally, I would love to take on as many questions as I could from the floor. Now, the examiner report of September and December 24 has already made available in the website. So guys, I presume some of us may have glanced through what's in there already, but obviously some of us haven't. Now, if I were to take out some of the extracts in the examiner report, now I would like to highlight and first advise everyone to take note. As you may be aware, the selections of the past questions that published in the platform are mainly focusing on section C, the constructive response questions. You hardly have sufficient real exam questions practice on section A and B. But guys, do you realize that in every sitting of the examiner report that published, the examining team have specially selected for section A multiple choice questions. Now, why do they pick up this for? And the answer is obviously, these are the questions which they found it is particularly challenging for candidates. In other words, the performances of these questions aren't that good, obviously. So that draw the attention for the examining team to highlight to the candidates what exactly are the key challenge area on the questions. If you ask me, I definitely would find very useful by attending these published MCQs in the examiner report before reading out the answer with the explanation, because these are the hidden questions practice bank that you couldn't find in the practice platform, but guys, it is found in the examiner report. If you look at the list of examiner reports given and published on the website, they have more than 10 set of examiner reports over there. Multiply that with 4 MCQ. In other words, guys, you already have got 40 real additional MCQ for your own practice. To me, that makes a lot of difference in increasing chances of getting through in the exam. Now, when you go through the examiner report at this moment, that tells you, okay, this is what the questions is asking. In a moment, I'm going to connect these questions into the Study Hub. So at this moment, I'm not going to read for you what exactly this first question is asking. Well, apart from the first Section A questions. Here comes another example, which is example 4 that's shown in the examiner report on Section A. Clearly, this question is asking on analytics techniques, which I just saw in the attendee chat before the start of the webinar. Some of us have shown some worries and concern about some difficulty in mastering analytical techniques, such as the one that asked in these questions. I'm going to give you some tips in a moment where we show what is in the study hub to solve and ease your worry. So, apart from the Section A, looking into a mini case or scenario-based multiple choice questions in Section B, which is extracted from the examiner report, these is the questions that were published in the report that pertaining to syllabus area B. Now, going through the requirement that I will show in the next screen, it is clearly that these questions on company G, good time, it's not only about manufacturing company in producing 2 types of time devices. More importantly, if you look at the second paragraph, you will see the word constraints. That is a very strong evidence telling you the questions is testing and pertaining to limiting factors. Looking into the questions that pertaining to this mini case, it is clearly asking on limiting factors matters by using some modernized management accounting techniques such as throughput accounting as well as theory of constraint. I'll go a little bit detailed on these questions in a moment when we start moving into Study Hub. Apart from Section A and B, which are all the multiple choice, now let's take a look at another Section B questions, which is relating to the same mini case that pertaining to multi-products company with limiting factors. As you can see, the questions is not only testing on just computational matters, it also tests on a theoretical questions such as these that make these questions a little more challenging comparing to those multiple choice that require single response. Imagine, guys, if you were to plug one of the options wrongly in the 4 types of questions here, the entire questions will get you no marks. In other words, beside multiple single response questions, all other types of multiple choice questions are generally more challenging comparing to a single response questions. The reason I bring this up to your attention is to highlight some of the exam technique that I would like to share with you all in a moment. So after looking at both the multiple choice questions in Section A and B, finally, here comes the Section C, a constructive response questions, where the one that published in the examiner report, it's on global scan company that is relating to the syllabus area that mentions in the first paragraph and followed by the background story of this company that is pertaining to decision-making techniques syllabus area. So this would have explained and addressed some of the questions I found in the attendee chat. What exactly are the area or the questions type that you may see in Section C? You got the answer here. It is in the decision-making area that were found in the Section C of the question, in addition to a few others. If you have spent a lot of time looking at this document, a lot of questions that bother you would have self-answered. So it's again the matter of, are you able to make a full use of all the ACCA resources? So guys, in addition to what the questions is talking about in Section C, if you look at the third arrow sign, the examiner reports that produced in the digital copy, they even would have shown the link, the website link to some of the additional reading material, which has got improved a lot more better comparing to examiner report in the earlier setting. Guys, I find this feature extremely efficient and useful for students in connecting what the difficult questions is all about to the reading resources to give you a better understanding in dealing with the similar questions like this that could be useful in preparing your exam to come. So if you just put a click on this article, they will in fact connecting to the technical articles in the ACCA website that relating to the topics pertaining to the questions. So I would like to take this opportunity to highlight to all the element, the functionality in the examiner report in digital copy in ACCA has improved a lot to make it much more students friendly in a much more efficient and effective way of learning. So guys, I'll take you through looking into some of the key wording that found in the requirement in the moment, and I would like to draw your attentions on what are the concerns and the findings that discovered by the marking team and the examining team on the students' performances in responding to the requirement that found in section C. As you may know, 40 marks worth in total for 2 constructive response questions in section C were directly affecting the chances of you in passing these examinations. If you manage to secure most of these 40 marks, don't you think so? The chances of you getting through and scoring and securing 50 marks is much higher than spending a lot of time in doing many of the smaller size of the questions. That would have helped you keep an eye, spend sufficient time and quality time, especially dealing with the 2 section C questions as much as you can. So guys, the examining report is not only connecting the learning resources to the questions that you saw on the screen, but also, as usual, this has been the same in the past. Examining report also addressed some key concerns, which is the key weaknesses that discover among many candidates who did the exam in that setting. So if you take a look at the following page, here are the key findings, which are the weaknesses that what examining team would like to draw to the students' attention. Here we go. These are the 4 key findings that students, a small number of them, will be able to pick up all these reminders, will be able to pick up these are the tasks that the questions were asking. However, quite a number of students are unable to respond to the questions in section C according to what the point here mentioned. So I would like to draw your attention, guys. Spend some time, read through this bullet point. It is telling the students what exactly the tasks that were asked by the questions. Remember, understanding the task, responding the task according to what is being asked is the key element of exam technique. Before talking about time management, before talking about presentation of answer, let's make sure you fully understand not only the questions, especially the verb, the task that to be responded. Sometimes in one single requirement, you may be asked for multiple tasks. Many students, however, will just keep an eye on the first task while neglecting and omitting each of the subsequent tasks. And that will render, no matter how long your answer is, you ended up only respond to the first task while leaving other tasks unanswered. That is very unwise in happening during the exam. So make sure, keep practicing, reading through the real exam questions and coming back, looking at the examiner report, checking, make sure, have you found out all the tasks that you have to respond? Have you missed out anything? So this is a good example by going through the 4 bullet point for self-checking. If you have given a try on these questions before coming back to this document. So guys, here comes another advice, which is another key findings among the examining teams. It is common, some of the questions in section C require computations. It needs you to put in the workings. Guys, please remember, only use the spreadsheet response area whenever it comes to computational tasks. Now, I notice some students may like to put calculation in the words response option. That is not encouraged. That is not recommended. Please follow advices from the examining team. Make sure any calculation, please only present in the spreadsheet. More still, putting the working in the spreadsheet, you have to make sure you line up your presentation should be of systematic and easy to understand. If there is a format, if there is a template provided in the question, make sure follow the templates. Let's not forget about every cell of the amount that you derive. Make sure use the functionality, show the calculation in the cell to derive the value. Let's take, for example, if the question is asking, what exactly is the total cost based upon a unit cost of $10 per unit multiplied by 20? Do not just insert $200. Instead, still go through the functionality by putting equal 10 multiplied 20. That's how you derive the 200. Never underestimate the need of showing the functionality in deriving the value. The reason being, should the amount you put in is not the same as the model answer, the marking team will still be able to refer to your working, to the formula that you create. Full credits will be given to the students if the working is shown correctly. Please bear this in mind. Let's not let go the marks too easily. Let's grab hold of all this kind of good habits of securing the mark as much as you could. So this is what the advice is given by the examining team, making full use on the spreadsheet response area. So guys, here comes the last bit of the examiner report I would like to draw to your attention on the recommendations given by the examining team. In responding to the pitfalls, in responding to the limitation or weaknesses that many students would have demonstrated in the exam, here are some of the recommendations or suggestions that examining team would like to draw to the attention of the students. If I'm the student, I definitely will spend time reading through word by word in detail what exactly examining team is suggesting us to do. Make sure pick up this suggestion to form as part of your exam technique, to form part of your answering approach. This is how it leads you to performance improvement in the future exam. Guys, I have seen in some of the correspondence in the attendee chat a moment ago, some of us may not be taking the upcoming exam as a first taker. Some of you, in other words, would have attempted this exam but weren't successful. Guys, if you want to cut off the continuity of failure, remember, you've got to change. The more changes that you embed in your upcoming preparations of the exam, in your upcoming real exam, the more chances that you will see improvement in your marks. So where do you get the improvement ideas from? You got to learn from the expert. Firstly, you got to hear what examining teams say. Then you have to see what marking team have to say. Lastly, expert tutor from ACCA. Your tutor at your learning institution would have given you great advices. Please take up all these advices and embed it onto your own exam behavior. This is how to ensure changes are shown for leading to improvement in exam performances to come. So guys, this is exactly what I mentioned, highlighting the pitfall, and the examining team therefore would have given suggestions to all the students for future improvement purposes. Time for me to take you through to some of the secrets in the study hub. But beforehand, I would like to draw everyone's attention. When you get into the study hub, that is the first desktop that you're going to see in your interface, which I quite like it because the study hub nowadays start with a dashboard, your performance dashboard. At one glance, it tells you to what extent you have made use of each and every type of the learning resource in the study hub. Ideally, if you ask me as a student, given sufficiency of the time, I would love to have my completion that's shown on the right-hand side column to be 100% in full. But I know that is a little bit too unrealistic to especially working adults, to especially some of us who are taking 2 months plus for learning purpose. So therefore, in a moment, I'm going to tell you, ideally, you should have completed everything completely. But what if the reality tells us that is not possible? So what should we do? We need to prioritize. That is exactly the mindset of limiting factor. Prioritizing the resources that help us to achieve maximum chances of getting through and passing the exam. So how exactly I'm going to use the study hub? Well, guys, based upon the selected questions that you saw a moment ago, I'm going to flick through selected section in the study hub in a moment. Once I have flicked through the selected section in the study hub, I will come back to this screen to connect what the selected questions you saw just now and the relevant chapter in the study hub I'm going to show you in a moment. When I put them together, you will see a very clear pictures. You will see a very high correlation. The chances of passing the exam to come is very much depends on how good are you in using the study hub. So allow me to share the screen. Great. Hazel, could you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you very much. So guys, I'm sure that this particular presentation of the desktop is not new to you if you have been using Study Hub as part of learning. Now, apart from making use of all different choices of resources that found on the left-hand side, I would like to perhaps draw your attention on two of the items. Number one, in the absence of time. Now, ideally, as I mentioned, you should have spent your time to finish reading all of these items of resource by completing 100% for each one of it, as I mentioned. However, the reality is, given the absence of the pleasure of the time, some of us say, I need to prioritize these resources. So the following advice is to tell you, in the absence of time, what am I supposed to do on the minimum usage of the study hub to at least maximize the learning outcome from here. First and foremost, this is something I will never miss. The content, the interactive learning content covering the entire syllabus is something I will make use of mostly. Secondly, the search functionality. Now, if you would have tried out, if you would have attempted some of the exam questions, like the one you saw just now, throughput accounting, you may just want to come to the search function and you can just go for keying in the keyword. And from that, you could find ranges of relevant search results pertaining to throughput accounting that you can go back to and read up. So that is how you can address your weakness area based on the focus reading. So that is one. Now let's get back to the chapter. If I were to pick up, assuming we're looking at chapter 3, I would suggest everyone, as I say again, ideally you should spend time to read all. That is the golden rule. However, in the absence of time, this is the way I will read up the content in the study hub. Firstly, this is something I will never want to miss. I would like to take a look at the bird's eye view, what this particular chapter is covering. The bird's eye view will give me a snapshot in a very systematic manner. I saw some of the attendee chat questions before we get started off. Some of us were asking these questions. How am I supposed to, I don't like to use the word memorize, guys. I like to use the word, how am I supposed to remember contents, technical knowledge that require in the exam? Well, to me, my map is the effective way. One of the effective way for you to comprehend key terminology, more importantly, presented in the logical manner and the systematic way. The more logical manner, the more systematic way you put it in with all the connection and the relationship, the easier for you to remember. That is the minimum requirement to at least allowing you to carry this substance of knowledge into the exam hall, apply by putting in this term as required. Apart from the overview, the other part that I would like to draw your attention is the syllabus coverage. The syllabus coverage, and especially summary and quizzes. These are the two I would like to advise you. Spend some time to take a look at. After going through the overview, the next thing is what exactly the part of syllabus are we covering? Remember, another key advice from examining team to all the students who go for the exam in every sitting is make sure, no matter how limited time that you have, guys, one of the secret in passing your exam is to prepare well by finish studying the whole syllabus of the subject. Please do not topic or question spot. You need to cover everything in the syllabus. So in the absence of time, how are we to cover the syllabus? I will start looking at the bird's eye view, followed by checking through the syllabus, which are the key area I have covered. That would be wonderful. Lastly, take a look at the summary. Now, instead of going through the detail of the body, these are the cream, these are the key highlights that what this chapter is covering. To me, for revision phase, these are good. These are really useful by going through the overview and the summary. Should this topic relate to any videos, any articles, you can see right now there are relevance linkage to topic explained in the video, particularly to the topic or the area that the video is about. Secondly, the articles which are connected to this area are found here. So remember, guys, all learning resources are found centrally in the study hub. You have to start your learning and your study from the study hub to reach out to all the relevant connection resources. So this is how I use the study hub smartly. Thirdly, if you need additional reading and idea on certain part, let's say for example, after going through this bird's eye view, I found difficulty in understanding theory of constraint. I will then go back to the subsection and look out for what exactly are the theory of constraints found. If you know which items to go, you can just go in there. If not, guys, remember what have I just mentioned? Go back to the search, key in theory of constraint. You will be able to see which of the section to find out the relevant part of it. So guys, apart from some of these relevant sequenced, I just want to remind you in the moment, when I connect back to the selected questions that found in the examiner report, I would like to show you something about chapter 3. I also would like to show you something that found in chapter 4, which is on some new management accounting technique and approaches, as well as relevant cost analysis. Last but not least, I will also like to draw your attention on something regarding analytical techniques, which is mainly for forecasting purpose. So guys, these are the ways I would recommend you in using the study hub in the essence of limited time available from now until the exam. So one more time, overview, syllabus coverage, summary and quizzes. Lastly, go back to the relevant area if there's a need, and let's not forget about watching the topic explained in the video and the technical articles. So these are the resources that you have to go through in the study hub. The other resources that not mentioning, it's the practice platform that gave you ranges, which is precisely a dozen of the past exam questions that you need to go through and attempt as many as you could. So this is what I would like to show on the study hub. Guys, I'm now back to the slide deck. Based upon the demonstrations in the study hub, how do we make use of exactly what that we see in the study hub? I would like to revisit some of these sections of the questions that we found in section A, example 4. This example 4 was asking about derive the amount of average seasonal variation in quarter 2. At the same time, derive the seasonally adjusted forecast sales units for quarter 2, year 2. So these questions is clearly on analytical technique, which relate to one of the topics in the study hub learning material a moment ago. If I were to show you, in order to help the students to, hey, what exactly these questions require? What exactly are the knowledge that we need over here? Now, without spending too much of time on going through front and back by stopping the screen sharing, I would like to glance through one shot. What were the questions that you have? Not only in the example 4 from section A, but also one of the questions in section B that we saw a moment ago on throughput accounting, theory and constraint, it is about the narration on two of these terminology, which of it are true. This is very much required the student to have a solid understanding regarding the terms that apply and found in these questions. Students who do not cover the full syllabus, they will suffer to picking up the correct combinations of the answer. Apart from the first questions pertaining to the first mini case, here comes another question that we saw a moment ago that was asking on the impact for the above actions that found on the right-hand side of this table. And then you have to select the impact whether these four actions would have led to an increase or decrease in TPAR, throughput accounting ratio. The moment we mention such a technical term, first thing in your mind, make sure you must be aware what exactly is the formula of TPAR, how exactly are the change in the above action affecting the TPAR. Bearing in mind, this is something I would like to share with you in a moment. Then, coming to section C, again, the questions is asking to read the requirements carefully, guys, complete the statement for year ending 31st December year 2, showing, do you see the second line, guys? Revenue and cost for each clinic in as much detail as possible. Now, many students may not have read through this word in detail, so they may not be able to produce the answer in completing the figure under the tables given below correctly. That will cause a loss of the marks. The other task that is coming in is to give recommendation. What exactly is a recommendation about which of the clinic or clinics that need to be shut down? Many students will just ended up giving the answer of Derby should be discontinued, Derby should be shut down. And that's it. Guys, this is one of the pitfalls the examining team have highlighted. The answer that you put up for narration, if it is not fully developed, I'm sorry, you do not get any credits from that. Let the marketing team know, why do you say so? You say Derby should be shut down. Please tell the marketing team why. Is it because of loss making or is it because of negative contribution? You need to indicate with your reason. That make up a fully developed answer on the narrative part of the question. This is what the examining team would like to draw to the students' attention. Guys, before spending a few minutes sharing with you some key exam strategy I would like to share with you, allow me to go back to the screen sharing. Going back to some of the questions that we saw, example 4, for instance, based upon what the questions were asking on two of the items, quarter 2 average seasonal variation and seasonally adjusted forecasted sales unit. If you are wondering how exactly I'm supposed to derive the answer for this, if I need to refer back to the study hub, guys, go back to the study hub. It is found under section 10 or chapter 10, part 2.3. So coming back to this area of the reading, you will be able to find some of the narration, some of the demonstrations on how do we derive the forecast result by using either additive model or multiplicative models. So with this kind of the point that are shown in arrow sign, this is what it connected directly, helping to explain why is that option an answer. Now, taking another questions, for instance, section B, the first questions, where limiting factor under throughput accounting principle is applied. In order to help the students to understand what exactly these statements are all about, which of it is true, guys, I also would have shown you, going to chapter 3 in the study hub, you would find some of the content. One of it, which you can see again in the arrow sign, by going through this content, it would therefore explain to you why is the statement true? Why is a statement untrue? So these therefore highlight to you what exactly are the relationship between the questions that found not only in the examiner report, but also the questions that found in the real exam sitting. So if you try to put these two pieces of the documents together, what do you notice, guys? In the upcoming exam, we have no idea what questions to be tested. But what we do know is whatever questions that you are going to see in the March, where are they coming from? You should know the answer. Where are the questions coming from? From the study hub. So if you try to reverse your thinking, you have seen just now, how do I connect the evidence of the exam questions in the examiner report and the study hub? If you try to play around the logical sequence, before you see the questions, what do you have to see first? What do you have to read first? It's a study hub. Once you cover the entire chunk of the study hub, rest assured, you already would have covered what the questions is supposed to come up in the real coming examination. So that would have given you an assurance and a boost in your confidence level. What should you be doing? And the answer is study hub. Anyway, in addition to the study hub, here are some tips that I wanted to share with you about from now to the exam, what are you supposed to do? Guys, I would like to start sharing with you the first mindset, which I call do the right things. Make sure waste no time, but only spending time doing something that is right. But how do you know what is the right thing to do? And the answer is make sure you understand clearly what the examiner wants, what the marker wants. Then only you got to do the things right. How to make sure you do the things right? You got to equip yourself with knowledge. And guys, ACCA resources from learning provider, these are the solutions for you. Finally, how do you bring it up to prepare yourself up to the state you're ready to pass the exam? You need to then prepare yourself with lots and lots of practices, either using quizzes, practice questions in the study hub, or the real exam question in the practice platform. So therefore, these are a bit more insight of the advice for you. How do you help yourself to read the mind of examiner? Well, there are some articles. If you go back to the ACCA website, articles that is non-topic specific, but is from examining team. It will tell you what exactly the nature of the paper, such as examiner approach to PM. Read the articles. It tells you what examining team wanted from you. Not to mention too much about examiner report, we already have emphasized enough on this. Followed by reading the mind of the marker. They are the one who mark your section C. If you refer to the ACCA website, there is a document called Read the Mind of the Marker. Guys, please read on this in detail. And of course, connecting with what examiner reports say, that would have given you a good understanding, okay, what are the right things I need to do? And let's not forget about key ACCA resources, which I have mentioned and demonstrated a moment ago. Finally, I would like to share with you 3 more tips in improving your chances of passing your exam of PM. First, strategy and approach. Second, mindset and your attitude. Thirdly, your habits and behavior. Now, what exactly I meant by that? The answer is, well, if you talk about exam strategy, in other words, let's include time management. What would I suggest you to do in allocating the time based upon the questions that you have? Well, it depends on your strategy. You may want to play around by allocating 1.5 to 1.8 minutes per month. My personal advice for you is to go with 1.5 minutes, so at least you have some buffer left behind to come back to attempt some questions that is a little bit challenging for you. In terms of the sequence of tackling the paper, some of us would say, I would like to go by the sequence. I start with A and then with C. Can. But guys, go back home, give it a try, rehearse a bit. If you start with C, what if you start with the constructive response questions? Secure as many marks as you can from the 40 marks. Then you go back to section B, finally left with section A. Try this out. I'm not going to tell you which one is the best because nothing is the best at all times. No one size fits for all. You're going to try this out by rehearsing, by taking up the mock exam at least 2 rounds to play around. Let's see which of the strategy fit you best. Then you go to the exam, you use one of the that suit you the best. Maybe the last advice I want to give it to you is coming back to the questions in section A in particular. As I mentioned at the start, some questions are single response. Some questions, however, are multiple response. My personal advice for you, when you tackle section A question, aim for the single response questions first. It will not take you too much of time, and your chances of getting right is 25% per choice. When you see any multiple response questions, my suggestions for you, flag it. Put a flag. Do not attempt those questions. Until you secure all the single response questions, you come back to attempt those questions with multiple response. That is what I would suggest you on the tactic in dealing with section A. That coming back to the mindset and attitude, make sure the moment you're preparing yourself for the exam from now until the exam day, keep focusing on your processes. Do not overly worry on the outcome. Always remember, when process is right, outcome is right. Okay? And keep focusing on the processes, think positively, be confident on yourself, always do the right thing, and always do the things right. Remember, last but not least, habits. Keep up all the good habits. Do not leave yourself with a lot of last-minute reading. Do not leave yourself with too much of surprises on the exam day. Always get yourself prepared, sleep early, exercise enough, keep your body strong, physically and mentally strong. You are doing fine. You will be fine. You will get through in the exam. So guys, I have shared with you all the useful insights on the examiner report, study hubs, and exam strategy. Now, time for me to respond to some of your questions in the Q&A box. Okay. Now, I'm trying to just answer as many as I could over here. Coming into some of the questions that could draw the attentions of many of the students. Some of it say, is it okay to do the study hub alongside the learning provider exam kit? The answer is yes. You can make use of the study hub and the questions bank provided by the learning provider concurrently. For learning purpose, if you ask me, study hub is wonderful with all the functionality, with the flexibility I just demonstrated. Unless you have another digital copy of the learning material as flexible as study hub, then you can go ahead. But study hub is freely available to all the ACCA students. I couldn't find that second to best, obviously. So that is definitely what I would like to advise you. Study hub can combine with any of the learning materials that you have it. Okay, so those of you who couldn't find the access on the study hub, please check out with the guidelines given by the ACCA team. They will be more than happy to show you the link and the steps to go for that. Okay, how best to balance 2 coming exams? Well, I suppose the moment you have paid and enroll for 2 exams to come, right from the beginning that you make the payment, you already should know your time planning, your time management, how to allocate your time for preparing yourself on the 2 exams that you enroll and registered for. But if you ask me personally, the basic rule is that spread the time equally, ideally. That is rule number 1. Spread equal time on both the paper. Okay. However, with additional considerations coming in, say for example, what if certain subject that is more confidence comparing to the next subject? Then you may want to adjust the weightage of the time and your attentions to the one that are weaker one. Of course, the third mindset you may want to think about is your strategy of which of the subject or which of the exam you may want to emphasize more, hope to have higher chance of passing. So if you have this kind of prioritization in your mindset, you may want to go with that. But if you ask me honestly, I would strongly recommend all to split the time equally to be more objective and rational. Okay, how do I make sure? Here comes the next questions from some of the students from the Q&A box. How do I make sure that my answer is systematic? Well, it is pretty simple. If you see the way I underlined the task in the section C of the requirement just now, what did the question ask? The question asked you to complete the templates given below, showing revenue and costs in as detail as possible. You have to keep looking at those kind of wording. Then when you come back to respond by using the template, once you read through the storyline, you need to figure out what information is the storyline that will be useful and relevant in responding to the question. Connecting the information in the storyline to the question, guys, require two things. Number one, strong technical knowledge. Two, you need to be able to understand the meaning of the verbs and the meaning of the tasks. You have a strong technical knowledge that will allow you to understand, to respond to the verb. If the verb say comment with reason, if the verb say explain with reason, if the verb asks evaluate, you need to know the meaning of all these verbs. That will directly tell you the tone, the content, the layout you should use in responding to the narrative questions. Lastly, the task. If you are asked to comment on what? The question asks, as you saw just now, which of the clinic should be shut down? Answer straight to the questions. The question asks you which of it should be shut down. You just tell them clinic A, clinic B, or clinic C should be shut down, followed by why. So if the question asks you to give some suggestion, always ensure you give a completely developed answer. Do not just tell the marketing team A is the answer. Tell the marketing team why. A is the answer because. B is a choice because. So this is how you make sure you answer what the questions is asking. I would like to highlight this again. The moment you can answer what the questions want, you already make your answer systematic. Student who cannot make the answer systematic is only one way. That is, you don't understand what the questions is asking. You don't even know how many questions are there to respond. Now, one of the tips for you to take note, if you are asked to respond in an empty worksheet, empty word processor, there isn't any formats given. Ideally, copy the task from the requirement, paste it in your word processor, break it into pieces. If the requirement in the words in the requirement has two tasks, break the two tasks into two headings. Each of the heading, you respond in clear heading and paragraph of answer. Leave spacing in between. Naturally, your answer will look not only systematic, but also professional. Now, here comes the next questions that we have. I would like to gain a world prize position. In other words, some of you would like to aim for the world prize winner. Excellent. Set your aim high. That becomes the key motivation for you to work harder. You have no complaint on how much time at this point to put in to get yourself prepared. So if you really aim for that, remember, full syllabus coverage is the essence. Full usage of the study hub is an essence. Full usage of all the ACCA resources. Technical article, topic explainer, last but not least, guys, the prize winner's characteristics always come apart from the technical knowledge, apart from great exam strategy. Last thing to remind, your stability, your consistency on the exam day is of essence. It is no point to prepare well, but on the exam day, you start getting nervous. You start getting overly worried. Remember, do not get yourself overly worried. Do not get yourself overly loaded with too much of the expectation. Focus on each and every question. Do according to your plan. Follow your time management. Just get one step done at a time. Focus on every single step when you move forward. You will be fine. Understand? Next, we have the questions on, some of us say, I have got a BPP revision kit or any of the revision kit that you bought from the publisher, does only using Study Hub and Passes questions enough for the preparation? I am confidently telling you the answer is yes. Study Hub, technical articles, topic explained in the video with the past exam question is, I would say, not 100%, but 99% sufficient in preparing you for the exam. But like what another students would say, but sir, if I want to be a prize winner, then you have to do something extra, obviously. Okay, so I also have answered and addressed some of the questions that some of you have asked me. What do we expect on section C questions in the practice platform? Please go back to the syllabus and study guide document. In the syllabus and the study guide document, it will tell you which sections of the questions that section C will be tested on. So I do not need to tell you here, but you can find the answer clearly in the study guide and the syllabus. So I hope that answers your questions. Okay, I have the next questions over here. If it is a theory answer in section C, how to approach that and how to answer that, like in a point or in a paragraph, or how much to answer? Apparently, students seem to get a bit worried in dealing with narrative questions, or we call theoretical questions. Remember what I just said, guys? Pick up the requirement, take a look at the response sheet in the words file, whether there is any heading or there is any templates given. Sometimes, if the questions, let's say, is asking on performance measurement, let's say by using balanced scorecard, you may have given the scorecard design in the template and you just got to fill in the blank. However, some of the time, the words file in the practice platform or during the exam is empty. Remember, if it is the case, empty, copy the requirement, stick it into your words processor and break it up. How do you break it up? First, look for verb. Verb is like explain, estimate, calculate, evaluate, analyze. One verb, one task. After the verb, look for the task. What are you to respond? Analyze, analyze what? Calculate, calculate what? So once you have these tasks listed on the heading, that will help you to stay focused. Answer these questions. Last words that you have to pick an eye on the requirement. Keep an eye on N, A-N-D. Something and something. It means there are two tasks that to be responded. You are likely to respond to tasks. Copy this into your words file, break it into two headings. Here is the answer to respond the first task. Here is the answer to respond the second task. So you will show your answer clearly, responding to each and every task that is asked. That will already make your answer very straight to the point. Make sure when you articulate your answer on a heading, we'll start with the keywords to draw the market attention. This is what I'm talking about. With the heading, you try to articulate with the paragraph. I would say a paragraph would take about 2 sentences at least. One sentence followed by a full stop, another sentence. Try to control the length of each paragraph to about 2 to 3 sentences, maximum 3 sentences. If you start nagging more than 3 sentences, guys, that is very likely you are going off topic. Okay? My suggestions for you, when you are tackling, let's say the questions ask you about the benefit of using activity-based costing, assuming. What's the benefit of using activity-based costing? Think about first looking at the marks. How many marks are there? Let's say 5 marks. And let's say you aim to get the 5 marks. You need 5 points, 5 fully developed points. But if you want to have a pass, aim for 3 headings. Let's say I want to aim for the pass. I want to get 3 out of 5. I will need to think about 3 headings first. When I find the first heading, my suggestion is do not dive down and articulate. Don't do that. Think of the heading. Think of the 3 key areas you want to talk about. Create the 3 headings, then only you dive down to write out the 3 paragraphs. That will allow you to control and manage your time much more effectively. Do you understand? This is how you tackle the written questions. Remember, if the question say, please discuss the benefit of ABC in relation to ABC company. When you see the word in relation to the company, make sure go back to the scenario, refer to the findings, refer to the backgrounds mentioned in the question. You need to bring those scenario out to pack into your answer. When I say pack into your answer, I didn't mean copy and paste. I mean refer to the current practice of blah, blah, blah. Here is the advantage. Refer to the current policy. Here is the benefit. So you need to connect back to the scenario in order to make sure your answer is specifically relating to the questions. That is when the questions come with the word in relation, in response, or with reference to the scenario of the name of the company. You must do this kind of connection. Are you okay with it? Well, in Excel, when we do section C, is it necessary to show the calculation? Yes, I have answered that, okay? And you should know the advantage and benefit that you will be getting if you do it with full working shown in the functionality, okay? Well, maybe due to time constraint, I'm going to do the last questions. I will take on the last questions. How to know how much point that we need to provide based on the marks given. As I say, on the principle of 1 point of fully developed content, you will get 1 mark. That is how you go by deciding how many points that you have to give. 1 fully developed point in principle, you aim for getting 1 marks on that. Okay, that's all for my sharing today. I hope that is useful for all in preparing your upcoming exam. I'm going to pass the floor back to Hazel. Over to you, Hazel.